Hi, welcome back. I'm Angela Judith, and I figure it's probably about time I tell a little bit of my story and share who I am. So, I've been studying and practicing magic since I was a kid. I've been studying world religions and spiritual paths since I was a kid. But for the longest time, I didn't realize that I am the magic. And like many other people, I continually got lost in the illusion of separation. I was raised in Catholic school and I had big questions from a small child. Big questions that no one seemed to be able to answer. And I learned pretty young, although it didn't stop me from asking, that asking them meant punishment, not truth. I was constantly, instead of hearing a legitimate answer, I was kicked out of class and asked to be quiet. And so for many years of my life, I lived disconnected from my authentic self and from anything that felt greater. I had no spiritual connection. I also had trouble figuring out what my purpose was in life. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I couldn't settle on anything that felt satisfying. And I really struggled with financial mindset and taking out big loans and the massive investment that it would cost to go to school, especially since I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. So I became a hairstylist, creative, intuitive, good with people. I was really good at it. I loved it. But eventually my body could no longer keep up and I spiraled. I got sick. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia when I was just 22 years old. And I lost myself in that illness. And through all the medications that I was put on, I eventually became addicted as well. I wound up getting sober at 39, and that's when everything changed for me. So, through personal and spiritual development, I found mysticism and manifestation and the art of intentional reality creation. And since then, I've studied it like it's a university subject, and it has changed my entire life. I healed myself, I manifested my soulmate, and then I created courses and an online community, a women's community on Facebook. And I began mentoring women on their path to spiritual sovereignty and embodied truth. And today I offer one-on-one mentorship. I still run that women's community for free on Facebook, and I'm co-creating a new space with my life partner who has his own powerful story of awakening. And together we're devoted to helping others find this peace and this power and this purpose that has been within us all along, that lives within you right now. And so my main message here is that you're not broken and you're not too late and you're not alone. And so I would also really like to talk in this video a little bit about my journey and how I've come to the conclusion that you are the power and that identity, healing, and something that I refer to as the 13th step is sort of the key here in all of this. And so there's a message that I wish more people were brave enough to say out loud. And it's this: there is no single path to awakening. There is no one modality that will take you all the way. Most of what is out there, even the stuff that's helped us, isn't the whole story. These days, everyone is online positioning themselves as an expert. But the truth is, we're all just sharing our experience and our wisdom. Some people are just teaching other people's information. They've read the books, they've watched the videos, they've learned the lingo, and now they teach it like it's gospel. But my intention for this channel is different. I'm not here to tell you what to believe or how to do it. I'm here to share from lived experience because that's where the real transformation happens. There is no one size fits all. Some things work for a while and then stop working. Some things work for some people and not for others. And that's okay. So, take shadow work in the 12 steps, for example. They are powerful tools. They help you bring unconscious patterns into the light. They help you understand why you are the way you are. They show you exactly what's going on inside you that keeps the same cycles repeating in your life. But that's not where it ends, right? Awareness alone is not enough. You can't just sit in your pain and label it healing. You can't keep blaming yourself or others for your circumstances and then expect to feel free. At some point, you have to be willing to let it go. We can't hold on to shame, guilt, and blame and expect to heal. The same thing I see with Neville Goddard's teachings. There are people who treat his words like scripture. They form echo chambers, attack anyone who interprets him differently, obsess over techniques like visualizing or the state akin to sleep, thinking that that is where the power is. But most of them aren't getting results. Why? Maybe, and this is what I'm thinking, it's because they're missing the point. And the point is, you are the power. It's not the method. It's not the spell. It's not the technique. It's you. I see the same thing in witchcraft and manifestation spaces. People thinking that spells or techniques are going to solve their problems. But spells don't solve problems. You do. There has to be a shift in identity. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story. Years ago, I was addicted to heroin and Xanax. Eventually, I went through the 12 steps. I spent a year in sober living. I got a job. I rebuilt all my relationships. And eventually, I found my footing again. But here's what I think so many people are misunderstanding. It actually came naturally for me to change my identity. At some point, it started to feel suffocating to sit in church basements and keep identifying as someone I wasn't anymore. So I left. And it's not because I was feeling rebellious or ungrateful, but because I had actually become someone else, someone more connected to myself, someone who was in alignment and who knew what I believed. I knew who I was. And I knew from lived experience that it was my disconnect from my authentic self and from source, from a higher power, that led me to lose myself in addiction in the first place. And so it wasn't just about substances. It was about separation. Separation from truth, separation from my soul, separation from the divine. And it wasn't until much later that I heard Bashar talk about the 13th step. And when I heard that, it just landed for me instantly because I'd already lived it. The 13th step is when you shift your identity so completely that you no longer relate to that version of you who was addicted. And so you're no longer managing cravings or avoiding triggers. You don't need that version of coping anymore because you've literally become someone entirely new. And so now let me be clear, this isn't always instant. Sometimes you have to live it, try it, and feel for what no longer aligns, and then use your sacred no, right? Make decisions from that point, like what isn't for you, right? And letting go of things that you know don't serve you. So that's part of it. But for me, I thought it was okay to smoke weed after I moved out of that recovery house, right? I started getting migraines from tension in my neck from all those years of holding my hands up high doing hair. And I went to smoking because it was never my addiction in the first place. And, I thought it was okay. And it was, right? But eventually I didn't like how it made me feel anymore. So I stopped and I literally never looked back. And that's the difference between trying to force change and embodying it. Because this isn't a perfect science. Science isn't even perfect. Every one of us is different. And this approach isn't for people who are still physically addicted or early in their recovery. Okay? it comes after you've done the inner work, right? After you've connected to your soul, after you've remembered who you really are. But the truth is, you don't have to follow a modality to the letter. You don't have to do things the way someone else did. You don't have to check your inner authority at the door of a program or a path or a practice, because you are the power. And once you stop giving it away and start remembering who you really are, that's when the magic truly begins. When I first started working with women and selling my courses, I had already experienced deep transformation. I was the embodiment of my work, and the women that I was aligned with felt that. They were purchasing my courses and getting real results, and the magic was flowing. But somewhere along the way, I started doubting myself, right? And I thought that I had to know more. I thought that I had to be more, prove more. I developed a little case of imposter syndrome. And instead of trusting my own power and my own intuition, I began outsourcing it to others who were successful in the online coaching space. And I ended up going down a rabbit hole of strategy and positioning and niching down and trying to solve the right problem in the right way. And I lost touch with why I started in the first place. And it was suddenly, I just realized that I wasn't getting the same results anymore, not in my business, not in my life, because I was no longer rooted in truth. I was trying to convince instead of connect. I was trying to prove instead of embody. And I even bought into the idea that I had to sell a solution-driven problem formula in the wealth, health, or relationship space in order to be successful. But the truth is, I can't solve anyone's problems. No one can. That's an inside job. And I never used manipulative tactics or pressure in my work. If I had, I probably would have made a lot more money. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to sell empty promises. I'm here to guide people back to their own power. And eventually I had to take a step back. I had to take a step back from it all, a big step back. And I had to remember who I am, where my power comes from, where I was 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and how far I've come since then. I had to check my ego at the door and come home to myself again. And just like that, as if by magic, a mirror appeared. Someone entered my life and entered my awareness. It was online, but still. And gently turned me back toward myself. He said to me, "You're creating it all." And it triggered me a little bit. But I knew he was right. And I was tired of the struggle. Even though it wasn't the same suffering that I've experienced in my past, suffering is suffering. And I know now that it's optional. And everything changed when I remembered that, because it's truly all about perspective. If you can't change your circumstances, change how you see them, and everything shifts. The truth is, we don't change reality from the outside in. That's an illusion. Reality works from the inside out. But we were taught that in order to have, we should do so that we could be. But that model is backwards. The truth is, when you choose to be peaceful, joyful, powerful, grounded, you naturally create what you desire, and the outside catches up. We'll dive deeper into this in future videos, but for now, I just really want you to know this. I'm done playing small. I'm done fearing my own power. I have wisdom that can change lives because it's changed mine, and I'm here to share it with those who feel the call. So if that's you, welcome to Midlife Mystic. This is just the beginning. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for being here.